Let's talk about reboots. A reboot is a sequel that's not a sequel. Usually it'll feature a lot of the same ideas and themes, and even settings and characters from earlier games in the series, but a reboot commonly acts as a canonical shear. It's the same story as before, but retold by a different voice. There are a bunch of different ways to do this. Here are a couple of the popular ones. The first is the redo. This is a basic retelling. Different from the original series or game, but not in any major way. Basically, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Examples include Unreal Tournament, Mortal Kombat, Tomb Raider Legend. The second is the update. This type of reboot takes a series that might be seen as old or outdated, and it attempts to update it for a new audience. Examples include DMC Devil May Cry, Medal of Honor, or Metroid Prime. The third one, the deconstruction, is the most interesting, I think. A deconstructionist game, and deconstructionist media in general, attempts to examine tropes and ideas within a work more thoroughly by applying them in a more realistic manner. A prominent recent example is the Tomb Raider reboot, which showed Lara Croft not as a simple bundle of boobish polygons, but as a vulnerable young woman having to deal with situations which, from a deconstructionist viewpoint, are really not good. Like being hounded by armed mercenaries. Wolfenstein: The New Order is a deconstructionist reboot, or it tries to be. It isn't always successful, but when it is, it elevates the series to a new height. It is interesting. This is especially notable because the Wolfenstein series is almost entirely made up of reboots, so through deconstruction, The New Order stands out as the black sheep in the Wolfenstein family. The basic premise of the Wolfenstein games is that you are BJ Blazkowicz, and you shoot a bunch of Nazis. And sometimes the Nazis have robots, and sometimes they have occult powers or monsters or something. The point is, you're not really supposed to think about it. You're just there to shoot Nazis. BJ may as well be a floating gun. But the New Order lingers on things that the other games don't. It attempts to dig a little deeper into how someone like BJ might actually function in and out of war. It doesn't paint the Nazis simply as cartoonish evil, but as cartoonish evil that mirrors the actual atrocities of the war in an impressive way. It's still not a cerebral game, but it feels like a deeper dive than what's come before. The problem is that a lot of that groundwork gets eroded as the game goes on. The first 2 hours are phenomenal at setting up a deconstruction that never truly arrives. For example, the pre-credits intro ends with you in a room that is dripping with iconography. Unlike other games in the series, or even other World War II games, this intro reminds you just how atrocious the war actually was. This intro brings up Mengele and concentration camps and gas chambers, but not in a ham-fisted way. Your chipper squad of soldiers are mutilated and their psyches are destroyed. Even your daring escape is ruined by a random piece of shrapnel. It's a shockingly dark way to begin a video game. It also establishes this new version of BJ, and he is and is not the character we know. He is still the same battle-hardened super soldier, but his inner monologue reveals a somewhat softer side. He cares about the people around him. He's not a faceless killing machine, he is a man who wants to keep fighting so that, in time, other people won't have to. I commend the game for maintaining BJ's abilities in this scenario. He is still a precision-tuned killing machine. If he weren't, I don't think his character development would have the same pull. He's still capable of emptying an entire base of Nazis single-handedly, and it's during these segments that I think the game truly shines. The gunplay and feeling of power that comes from working your way through an entire platoon in the rain is unbeatable. BJ is an interesting character to dig into because he is still a ruthless killing machine, in a world that doesn't accept that idea so readily. But as the story goes on, the game becomes less of a deconstruction and more of the thing it seemed like it was trying to tear down in the first place. A prime example is the relationship with Anya. Anya serves as BJ's main motivation for fighting throughout the game. He dreams about a peaceful life with her. Unfortunately, this relationship isn't portrayed in a way that meshes with the messages that the game is trying to convey. Anya and BJ only really talk during ribald sex scenes, and we never really get a good look at why BJ and Anya like each other so much. She goes from being a nurse to a freedom fighter to an expert at decryption within a very short period of time, and it all feels like an excuse to give BJ a reason to fight that hits harder than the ones in the past. It doesn't work. She's portrayed as strong, but still spends a lot of the game as a damsel in distress. Anya is a walking, talking example of the game's issues with tone. The enemies also suffer from declining quality as the game goes on. I understand why this game nixes the supernatural elements from previous games. It would have been very hard to work around this in a more realistic portrayal. Regardless though, by the end of the game people are wearing stupid rock suits and Nazis are popping brains out of people and robots are shooting giant lightning bolts at you. The last half of the game is just as cartoony as previous games in the series, and all the plot setup basically takes a backseat to dumb action scenes and extremely basic revenge setups. All that aside, The New Order is an enjoyable thrill ride. It promises the world, but can't ultimately provide it in a satisfying way. At the end of the day, it is good for the same reason the other Wolfenstein games have been good, because you shoot Nazis.